The ritual in the forest the night was cold. And the alien forest was silent except for the sound of chanting. It was not the sound of any normal song, but something dark and heavy. The wind carried the smell of burning herbs and smoke, making the air thick in the center of the forest clearing. A ring of hooded figures stood holding tall torches. Their faces were hidden in the shadows of their black hoods. The flames of the torches danced in the wind, casting strange shapes on the ground. In the middle of the circle, tied with rough ropes, was a young alien wolf girl. Her fur was silver and matted with dirt. Her ears drooping with exhaustion, her golden eyes glowed faintly in the torchlight, showing both fear and defiance. The ropes dug into her wrists and ankles, leaving marks on her skin. She tried to pull against them, but her strength was almost gone. The cult members whispered to each other, their voices like a low growl. A tall figure stepped forward from the group. He wore a hood darker than the rest and held a long, jagged black dagger. His voice was deep and full of strange power. Tonight, the gate between worlds will open, he declared. This girl's blood will guide the way. The others hissed in agreement, raising their torches higher. The wolf girl shook her head, her voice muffled by the cloth over her mouth. She tried to scream, but the sound was swallowed by the chanting. Far from the circle, hidden behind a thick tree, a human man watched. He had been traveling through the forest when he heard the strange sound. At first, he thought it was some alien festival. But now, looking at the scene before him, he knew it was something else, something dangerous. His hand gripped the small knife on his belt, but his mind raced. If he moved now, he would be fighting against an entire cult. But if he stayed hidden, the girl would die. The chanting grew louder, the words strange and twisted. The cult leader raised the dagger above his head, the blade catching the torchlight. The girl's eyes widened in terror, her body trembling against the ropes. The human's heart pounded so hard he thought they might hear it. His mind screamed for him to walk away. But his legs were already moving. The shadows from the torches stretched toward him as he stepped into the light. Stop. His voice cut through the chanting. The hooded figures turned, their glowing alien eyes fixing on him. Some hissed, others bared sharp teeth. The leader tilted his head, studying this unexpected intruder. You do not belong here, human. The leader said slowly, leave now, and we may let you live. The human ignored the threat and took another step forward. Let her go, he said, his voice steady but his grip on the knife tightening. The cult members began to close in, moving like predators. The air felt heavier with each step they took. The wolf girl stared at the human, her eyes wide with confusion. No one had ever come for her before. She didn't understand why a stranger would risk his life for her. The leader's dagger lowered slightly. You cannot stop what has already begun, he said. The gate will open with or without you. The human glanced at the girl, then back at the leader. I don't care about your gate, he replied. But you're not killing her. The torches flared suddenly, the flames turning a strange green. The cult hissed and lunged at him, their movements faster than any human could match. The human ducked under one swing, slashing with his knife. He felt the blade connect with something, but he didn't stop to look. He reached the girl, cutting the rope around her wrists. Her hands were free, but the rope around her ankles kept her trapped. She stumbled forward, catching herself on his arm. He pulled the cloth from her mouth, and she gasped for air. We have to run, he said. She nodded. But the cult members were already recovering. One of them let out a sharp cry, and the sound echoed through the forest. Somewhere deeper in the trees, something answered a sound not human, not natural. The human skin crawled at the noise. He cut the last rope, lifting the girl to her feet. She was weak, but her legs could still move. They ran into the dark trees. the torchlight fading behind them. The chanting changed, turning into a howl-like rhythm. The girl's breathing was ragged, her silver fur brushing against his arm. "Why? You helping me?" she asked between breaths. "I'll explain later," he said, pulling her along. "Right now." They just had to survive the night. Behind them, the cult leader stood in the clearing. He lowered the dagger and looked at the black sky above. A faint crack of light appeared in the air, like a tear in the world itself. "It has begun," he whispered. The wind carried his words through the forest. And far ahead, the human and the wolf girl kept running, neither of them knowing that the real danger had only just started. The reckless rescue. The forest was alive with the sound of pursuit. Branches cracked behind them, and heavy footsteps pounded against the damp ground. The human could hear the strange, guttural voices of the cult members calling out to one another. Their language was harsh, like stone grinding against stone. The wolf girl stumbled, her breathing shallow, but she kept moving. Her silver tail dragged against the ground, leaving a faint trail that the cult could follow. "Stay close," the human whispered. Pulling her by the arm, the path ahead twisted between thick alien trees with glowing blue moss on their trunks. It gave just enough light for him to see, but it also made them easier to track. The sound of something scraping along the bark came from their left. He slowed, listening, his hand tightening around the knife. The girl's ears twitched nervously, her golden eyes scanning the shadows. Suddenly, a figure lunged from the darkness. It was one of the cult's hunters, taller than the human. With pale skin marked by black ritual symbols, its fingers ended in sharp claws, and its mouth opened to reveal jagged teeth. The human reacted fast, shoving the girl behind him and slashing with the knife. The blade cut across the creature's forearm, making it hiss and recoil, but the noise drew more of them. Their shadows moving between the trees. "We can't outrun them for long," the girl gasped. Her voice still carried the tremor of fear. "Then we fight only if we have to," the human replied. They broke through a patch of tall grass and saw an old stone wall half buried in the earth. Beyond it stood a small structure, cracked and covered in vines. It looked abandoned, but it might give them a chance to hide. He helped the girl climb over the wall, his eyes never leaving the dark forest behind them. The cult's voices grew louder, their torches now visible through the trees. Inside the crumbling building, they found broken shelves, a collapsed ceiling, and shattered glass. On the floor, it smelled of dust and old metal. The girl leaned against the wall, holding her side. The human noticed the cut on her arm where the rope had rubbed her skin raw. "Sit here, don't move," he told her. She wanted to argue, but the exhaustion in her body won. He stepped back to the doorway, crouching low, through a crack. He saw the flicker of green torchlight passing close. Two cult members walked by slowly, sniffing the air like hunters searching for prey. The human held his breath, his grip on the knife firm. When the sound faded, he turned back to the girl. "You need water," he said, pulling a small flask from his pack. She drank greedily, the cool liquid calming her. "Why?" she asked again, her voice softer this time. "Why did you save me?" He looked at her for a moment before answering. "Because I couldn't watch them kill you," he said, "even if you're not human." She asked, tilting her head, "Especially if you're not human." He replied without hesitation. Her eyes studied him like she was trying to see through his words. Finally, she gave a small nod, but before they could say more, a deep rumble came from the ground beneath them. Dust fell from the ceiling, and a strange humming filled the air. The girl's eyes widened in alarm. "They've started the second part of the ritual," she whispered. "If they finish, the gate will open fully." The human glanced outside. The cult was regrouping. Some carried curved spears. Others had long chains that glowed faintly. "They're hunting you like you're an animal," he said. "They think I'm the key." She answered bitterly. "They're right. The human frowned. Then we need to make sure they never use that key. He moved to the back of the ruined building and found a small, half-collapsed tunnel leading underground. This might get us farther from them, he said. She hesitated, her ears twitching at the sound of approaching footsteps. Or it might trap us, she warned. Better than standing here waiting to die. He replied. They crawled into the narrow passage, the damp earth pressing close around them. The tunnel smelled of wet soil and rusted metal. Somewhere ahead, a faint light glimmered. They moved toward it, the sound of the cult fading behind them. When they emerged, they found themselves on the edge of a deep ravine. The air was cooler here, the sound of rushing water echoing below. A narrow, broken bridge stretched across, swaying in the wind. The human stepped onto the first plank, testing its weight. It'll hold, he said. Though he wasn't fully sure, the girl followed, her tail low, halfway across. A roar echoed from the forest. Something big was coming. The planks shook under their feet, and the girl's claws gripped the wood tightly. They reached the other side just as a massive shadow emerged from the trees. It was not a cult member, but something worse, a beast with 4 glowing eyes and a mouth lined with too many teeth. The human grabbed her hand, pulling her into the darkness of the ravine path. The chase wasn't over. It had only just begun. The girl with the cursed blood. The narrow path twisted deep into the ravine. The air was damp and heavy, filled with the constant roar of the river below. The human kept glancing back, making sure the 4-eyed beast had not followed them. The wolf girl walked close behind, her steps light but uneven. Her breathing was slow now, almost as if she was holding something back. The faint torchlight from the other side of the ravine faded until they were left in near darkness. After a while, the human found a small overhang of rock where they could rest. The girl sat down, her silver fur glistening faintly from the moisture in the air. He noticed her shivering and pulled off his jacket, placing it over her shoulders. She stared at it for a moment before accepting it. "Thank you," she said quietly. Her voice was soft, but it carried a weight that made him curious. They sat in silence, the sound of rushing water filling the space between them. Finally, he spoke. "You said they think you're the key," he began. "What does that mean?" Her golden eyes met his, and for the first time, he saw hesitation. "They think my blood is cursed," she said. "Not just cursed. It carries a mark from something ancient." The human frowned. "What kind of mark?" She lifted her left arm, showing a faint, glowing pattern beneath her fur. It looked like intertwined runes, shifting and fading like smoke. "When I was born, the elders said the mark meant my blood could open the gate between worlds," she continued. "They believed it was a gift from their god, but my parents didn't. They hid me for years. Until the cult found us." Her voice cracked slightly at the last words. The human didn't need to ask what happened next. The look in her eyes told him. "They took you," he said quietly. She nodded, her ears lowering. "They killed. My parents burned our home and kept me alive for the ritual." Her claws dug into her knees as she spoke. "I thought maybe it would be better to let them do it, just to end it," she admitted. "But then you came." The human shifted uncomfortably at her words. He hadn't planned to be anyone's hero. He was just passing through this planet, looking for a place to rest before moving on. Yet here he was, sitting in the dark with someone who might be the only thing standing between the cult and the end of both their worlds. "What happens if the gate opens?" he asked. Her eyes flicked away. "They say their god will return, a being made of shadow and hunger." "Do you believe it?" he asked. She hesitated. "I don't know," she said, "but I know the air is changing, the ground is trembling, and I can feel something pulling at me." The human leaned forward, pulling. She placed a hand over her chest. "It's like something is calling to my blood," she said. "It's stronger every hour, like it wants me to go to them." He Didn't like the sound of that. How long until the ritual is complete? By the next moonrise, she answered. That's all the time we have. He stood, checking the few supplies in his pack. We're not going to wait for them to come find us, he said. We're going to find them first. Her ears twitched. You want to go toward them? She asked in disbelief. If we destroy whatever they're using to open the gate. They can't use you, he replied. She hesitated, but there was a spark of hope in her eyes. They started walking again, following the ravine until it opened into a narrow valley. Alien trees with twisting roots glowed faintly in the shadows. Strange insect-like creatures clung to the bark. Watching silently as they passed, the human felt uneasy. It was too quiet. Halfway through the valley, the girl stopped, her ears rising. They're here, she whispered, before he could react. 3 figures stepped out from the trees. Their faces were hidden, but their movements were smooth and predatory. The humans stepped in front of the girl. Knife ready? The cult members didn't rush him. They simply spread out, cutting off escape. One of them spoke, their voice low and almost amused. You can't. Keep her from the gate, they said. She will walk there herself before the night is over. The human's jaw tightened. Over my dead body, he replied. That can be arranged. The cultist said, stepping forward. They attacked without warning. The humans slashed at the nearest one, forcing them back. The girl struck another with her claws, the sound of tearing fabric echoing through the valley. One cultist grabbed her arm, and she let out a sharp cry. The human spun, driving his shoulder into the attacker and shoving them away. But in the struggle, the edge of the cultist's blade nicked her skin. A drop of her blood fell to the ground. Glowing faintly in the dark, the cultists froze for a moment. Their eyes wide, the human pulled her back. But the glow spread along the roots of the trees. A deep hum filled the air, and somewhere far away, a low roar answered. They've marked us, she whispered in fear. They'll know exactly where we are now. The human grabbed her hand and ran. The valley seemed to twist unnaturally, the trees bending toward them. The glow of her blood on the ground faded, but the hum in the air remained. As they disappeared into the shadows, the cultists watched silently. One of them smiled beneath their hood. She won't be able to run much longer, they murmured, and deep inside, the girl knew they were right. The cursed blood was calling her toward the gate, whether she wanted it or not. The first attack the night had deepened, and the alien sky was heavy with thick, dark clouds. The air smelled of rain and electricity. The human and the wolf girl moved quickly through the rocky pass, their footsteps echoing softly. Every shadow felt alive. Every gust of wind carried the memory of the cult's chanting. The girl's ears twitched constantly, catching sounds he couldn't hear. She was breathing faster now, the cursed pull inside, her blood growing stronger. They finally reached a small abandoned outpost built into the side of a cliff. Its walls were made of alien metal, rusted and covered in moss. Inside, the roof was broken in places. Letting the cold night air drift in, the human found an old lantern and managed to light it, casting a faint golden glow. The girl sat down against the wall, her eyes half closed. For the first time since meeting her, he could see how tired she truly was. You should sleep for a while, he said. She shook her head. No. I can feel them getting closer, she whispered. The human scanned the darkness outside. At first, there was nothing. Then he saw movement between the trees below, several shapes, tall and hunched, moving in silence. Their eyes glowed faintly. In the dark, they're here, he muttered, tightening his grip on the knife. The girl pushed herself up, her claws flexing. They won't stop until they take me, she said bitterly. Then we make sure they don't, he replied. The first creature emerged from the tree line, and the human realized it was not a cultist. It was a shadow beast, its skin black and glossy, its mouth opening wider than any natural creature should. Behind it, more shapes appeared. Climbing the rocks toward the outpost, they sent. "The beasts first," the girl said, her tail low. "They want to wear us down before they come themselves." The human stepped forward. Positioning himself between her and the opening, the first beast lunged, and he swung the knife. The blade cutting across its face, it let out a horrible screech, thrashing before falling back into the shadows. But another replaced it instantly, crawling along the wall like an insect. The girl leaped forward, slashing with her claws, sending it tumbling to the ground below. For a moment, there was silence, broken only by their breathing. Then the sound came, a chorus of guttural growls all around them. The beasts were circling, searching for a weak point. The human moved toward the back of the outpost, where a section of wall had collapsed. He barely had time to react before a beast crashed through, knocking him to the ground. Its claws slashed across his shoulder, tearing his jacket. He rolled away, stabbing upward. Feeling the knife sink into the creature's side, it howled and fell back. But another was already charging. The girl tackled it mid-leap, her claws tearing at its neck. Her golden eyes burned with a fierce light, her fangs bared. The human got to his feet, blood dripping down his arm. "We can't hold this place," he said. "There's too many," she agreed. Her chest rising and falling quickly, they backed toward the narrow exit on the cliff side. Below, a steep path wound down toward the valley. But as they reached the edge, the largest beast stepped into view, blocking their way. It was almost twice the size of the others, its four glowing eyes locked on the girl. Ignoring the human completely, the way it moved was deliberate, like it was savoring the moment. The human stepped forward, knife ready. "You're not touching her," he growled. The beast lunged with incredible speed, its claws swiping for his chest. He dodged to the side, slashing at its leg. It roared but didn't slow down, spinning too. Attack again. The girl leaped onto its back, sinking her claws deep into its hide. The beast twisted and bucked, trying to throw her off. The human saw his chance and stabbed the knife into its throat. The creature shuddered, letting out a deep, rattling growl before collapsing. Its body twitched once, then went still. The other beasts hesitated, their growls fading into low hisses. One by one, they retreated into the darkness, melting into the trees. The human leaned against the wall. Breathing hard, the girl dropped to her knees, panting, blood not hers, but the beast stripped from her claws that was. "The first wave," she said grimly. "They'll come themselves now." The human nodded, wiping his knife on the ground. "Then we don't stay here," he said. "We need to move before they surround us again." They stepped out into the cold night, the clouds parting enough to reveal the alien moon. Its pale light washed over the land, making the shadows seem deeper, far in the distance. A faint column of green light rose into the sky. The girl stared at it, her ears flat. "That's where the gate is forming," she said. Her voice trembled, not from fear alone, but from the strange pull in her blood. The human followed her gaze, his jaw set. "Then that's where we go," he said, "before they finish what they've started," and as they disappeared into the darkness, the forest behind them came alive with the sound of drums. The cult knew they had survived the beasts. Now, the hunt would be personal. The forbidden temple, the green light in the distance, seemed to grow brighter with every step they took. It pulsed like a heartbeat, sending faint ripples through the ground beneath their feet. The human and the wolf girl moved quickly through the forest, the cold air stinging their skin. Neither of them spoke for a long time. They both knew the closer they got to the light, the closer they came to the cult. They crossed a shallow river, the water glowing faintly from strange minerals. The girl's ears twitched constantly, picking up sounds he could not hear. "There ahead," she whispered at one point. The human tightened his grip on the knife. Through the trees, the green glow grew sharper, and soon they stood on the edge of a deep ravine. In the center, surrounded by jagged cliffs, stood a massive black structure. It was ancient and alien, built from stone that seemed to swallow light. Instead of reflect it, the green energy poured from its center, rising high into the sky. "That's it," the girl said quietly. "The Forbidden Temple." Her voice held both fear and recognition. The human studied the structure, noticing strange symbols carved into its walls. "They're like the marks on your arm," he said. She nodded slowly. "This place was built long before I was born. Maybe even before my people existed." Her tail lowered. "Everything inside will try to stop us." The only way across the ravine was a narrow stone bridge. It looked unstable, but it was their only option. The human stepped onto it first. Testing each step, the girl followed close behind, her eyes scanning the cliffs for movement. Halfway across, a loud cracking sound echoed. They froze. One of the bridge stones shifted beneath the human's foot, sending small rocks tumbling into the dark abyss below. "Don't look down," he said quietly. She forced herself to keep moving. When they finally reached the other side, they stood before a huge gate of black metal. It was covered in carvings that seemed to shift when they weren't looking directly at them. The human touched one and felt a strange cold pulse run through his arm. The girl grabbed his wrist, pulling him back. "Don't touch the symbols," she warned. "They're alive." They pushed the heavy doors open, and the sound of chanting rolled out to meet them. The air inside was warm and thick, filled with the smell of burning herbs. Flickering green torches lined the walls, casting long, twisted shadows. At the far end of the massive hall stood an altar. And on that altar sat a black stone that pulsed in rhythm with the green light. The bloodstone around it, cult members in black hoods swayed, their voices rising in unison. The human and the girl stayed hidden in the shadows. "That stone," the girl whispered. "It's the heart of the ritual, if we destroy it." "The gate can't be opened," the human nodded. But the path to the altar was wide open, with no cover to hide behind. They would have to move fast. Just then, a deep voice filled the hall. The cult leader stepped forward from the crowd, his hood down now, revealing a pale, scarred face. His eyes glowed the same green as the stone. "My brothers and sisters," he said, his voice echoing through the temple. "The gate awakens, and the blood of the cursed one will lead the way." He lifted a ceremonial blade, long and jagged. "Bring her to me." Two cult members suddenly turned toward their hiding spot. The human knew they had been seen. "Run!" he shouted, grabbing the girl's arm. They sprinted into the open hall, the chanting breaking into chaos. The cultists rushed after them, their footsteps pounding against the stone. The girl leaped at one of them, slashing across his chest. The human ducked under another swing, stabbing upward with his knife. They fought their way toward the altar, but the cult closed in fast. The leader stood waiting, the bloodstone glowing brighter with every step they took. "You cannot stop this," he called out. "She belongs to the gate." The girl's eyes burned with defiance. "I belong to no one," she shouted. She lunged forward, her claws reaching for the bloodstone. But the leader intercepted her, slashing the blade across her arm. Her blood spilled onto the stone, and the entire temple shuddered. A deep, unearthly roar echoed from the walls. The green light flared so brightly that it hurt to look at. The human grabbed her and pulled her back. The leader smiled darkly. "It begins," he said. From the stone, tendrils of black smoke began to rise, twisting into shapes that were almost alive. The gate outside the temple trembled, a low hum shaking the ground. The human realized they were almost out of time. "We have to destroy it now," he shouted. The girl nodded, even as her knees wavered from the blood loss. They charged together. The human swung his knife at the stone, but it clanged harmlessly off the surface. The girl slashed at it with her claws, leaving faint marks, but no cracks. the leader raised his blade again, but before he could strike, the green light around the stone flickered, the temple shook harder, and dust rained from the ceiling. Somewhere deep in the walls, a strange, hollow voice spoke in a language neither of them understood. The human glanced at the girl. "We need fire," he said. Her eyes darted to the nearest torch. He grabbed it, flames licking the air. The leader lunged at him, but the girl intercepted, her claws locking with his blade. "Do it," she shouted. The human swung the torch forward. Driving the flames against the bloodstone, the surface hissed, cracks spreading like veins across it. The green light dimmed, then flared violently. A wave of force knocked everyone to the ground. The leader screamed in rage. The human pulled the girl to her feet. The stone was weakening, but it wasn't destroyed yet, and outside, the sound of the gate tearing open filled the air like a storm. The final confrontation, the temple shook as if the ground itself was alive. Dust fell from the high ceiling, and cracks spread across the black stone walls. The green light from the bloodstone pulsed violently, bright enough to paint the entire hall in its glow. The human gripped the torch tighter, feeling the heat against his skin. Beside him, the wolf girl swayed on her feet, her wound still bleeding, but her eyes were locked on the stone. Burning with determination, the cult leader rose slowly from where he had been thrown. His hood had fallen, revealing the twisted scars along his jaw and the glowing veins running down his neck. "You think fire can stop the will of the gate?" he hissed. The girl's blood has already called to it. He lifted his jagged blade, pointing it toward her. "Give her to me, and I may spare you a quick death." The human stepped between them. "You're going to have to kill me first," he said firmly. The leader's mouth curled into something between a smile and a snarl. "So be it." The cultists began to close in from all sides, their steps in perfect rhythm with the deep hum of the stone. The girl moved to the human's side, her claws flexing. "They're not going to stop," she said. "Then neither do we," he replied. The first cultist lunged, and the human swung the torch. The flames catching on the cultist's robe, he screamed, stumbling back. Another came from the left, but the girl slashed across his chest, sending him crashing into the wall. More took their place instantly, their faces hidden but their glowing eyes fixed on the girl. The leader advanced slowly, not rushing. Every step he took made the air feel heavier. The human felt the strange pull from the bloodstone to now like invisible hands trying to drag him toward it. The girl's breathing grew faster. "They're using the stone to control me," she gasped. "I can feel it inside my head." "Fight it," he urged. "I'll give you the time you need," he charged at the leader. Their blades meeting with a sharp clang. The leader was fast, faster than any human should be. His strikes came with deadly precision, forcing the human to block or dodge every second. Each blow sent pain shooting up his arms, but he didn't back down. The leader smirked. "You're strong for a mortal," he said, "but strength won't matter when the gate is open." The human pushed back hard, forcing the leader a step away from the corner of his eye. T saw the girl crawl toward the altar. Her claws dug into the stone floor as she fought the pull of the bloodstone. Her arm glowed faintly again, the cursed mark pulsing in rhythm. With the green light, the leader noticed her movement and broke away from the fight. "No?" he shouted, moving toward her. The human tackled him from the side, slamming them both into a pillar. The impact cracked the stone and sent a rain of debris onto the floor. The leader roared, throwing the human off with unnatural strength. The human hit the ground hard, his knife skidding away before the leader could finish him. The girl grabbed the torch. She drove the flames straight into the bloodstone. This time, the cracks spread faster. Glowing white at the edges, the green light flickered, and a piercing screech filled the hall. It wasn't from the cult, it was from something beyond the gate. The leader screamed in rage, lunging toward her, the human, still on the ground, grabbed a fallen spear from one of the cultists. With every ounce of strength left, he hurled. The spear struck the leader in the side, staggering him. The girl used the moment to slam the torch into the stone again. With a deafening crack, the bloodstone split in two. The green light burst outward in a violent wave, knocking every cultist to the ground. The leader fell to his knees, clutching the wound in his side. The temple walls began to crumble, massive. Chunks of stone falling from above. "You fool!" The leader coughed, blood on his lips. "You've doomed us all. Without the stone, the gate will collapse and take everything with it." "Good," the human said, pulling the girl toward the exit. "We'll make sure you go with it." The cult leader tried to stand, but the collapsing ceiling buried him under a rain of stone. The girl stumbled beside the human, her legs weak but still moving. They ran for the doors as the temple tore itself apart. The air was thick with dust, the sound of destruction like thunder all around them. A final roar echoed from the gate. Not of triumph, but of rage. Before it was silenced forever, they burst out into the cold night. The temple behind them collapsing into a heap of rubble and fire. The green light faded into the darkness. Leaving only the pale moon above, the human turned to the girl. "It's over," he said, breathing hard. She looked back at the ruins, her eyes distant. "Maybe," she said softly. "But the mark is still here," she added, touching her arm, "and somewhere there are others like me." The human met her gaze. "Then we'll deal with them too," he said. And together they walked into the night. Not knowing where the path would lead, but knowing they had survived the worst. For now, the gate closes. The night was still, but it was not peaceful. The smoke from the destroyed temple drifted across the alien sky, glowing faintly under the pale moon. The green light that once tore through the darkness was gone, but the air still felt heavy, as if the world was holding its breath. The human and the wolf girl moved slowly through the forest. Every step felt heavier than the last, not from exhaustion alone, but from the weight of what had just happened. The girl's wound had stopped bleeding, but she was pale, her tail dragging low behind her. The human supported her with one arm, its other hand gripping the knife he had recovered from the temple floor. They walked until they reached a small clearing where the grass glowed faintly blue under the moonlight. The girl sat down, leaning against a fallen tree. Her golden eyes reflected the stars above. For the first time since he had met her, she looked calm. "Is it really over?" she asked softly. The human sat beside her. "The gate's gone, the stone's destroyed," he said. "That's as over as it gets." But even as he spoke, he could see doubt in her eyes. She ran her claws over the glowing mark on her arm. "It's still here," she whispered. "It still feels alive." The human frowned. "What does it mean?" She shook her head. "I don't know," she said, "but I think whatever the cult served, it's not completely gone." The forest around them was quiet, but not the kind of quiet that brings peace. It was the silence that comes after a storm, when the world waits for what comes next, far in the distance. A wolf's howl echoed, not a normal one, but low, mournful, and almost human. The girl's ears perked, her eyes scanning the trees. "That wasn't one of my kind," she said slowly. The human tightened his grip on his knife. "You think? There are more of them out there?" She didn't answer, but her gaze didn't leave the shadows beyond the clearing. After a long pause, she looked at him. "You could leave me here," she said quietly. "Would be safer for you. The cult is gone, but others will come." The human stared at her for a moment before shaking his head. "I didn't go through all this just to leave you behind," he said. "Besides, you saved my life more than once." Her lips curved into the faintest smile. "No one's ever said that to me before," she whispered. They stayed in the clearing for a while, resting. The moon moved slowly across the sky. The human kept watch, scanning for movement, His mind replayed the fight in the temple. The leader's words, the sound of the gate collapsing, the scream from whatever was on the other side. He didn't know if it had been trapped forever or simply sent back. Either way, it had been too close. Eventually, they rose again, moving toward the mountains. The girl explained there was a hidden valley beyond them where the cult would never go, a place where her people once lived in peace. The path was steep, the wind sharp against their faces, but the air felt cleaner here. Every step took them farther from the ruins and closer to something that might be safety. By the time they reached the valley's edge, the first light of dawn was breaking. Golden rays spilled over the alien peaks. Painting the land in soft colors, the girl paused. At the top of the ridge, looking back toward the forest. "Part of me will always belong to that place," she said quietly. "But I think I can start again." The humans stood beside her, watching the sun rise. "Then we start again together," he said simply. They descended into the valley. The grass was tall and silver in the morning light. Strange flowers opened as the sun touched them, releasing a gentle, sweet scent into the air. Bird-like creatures called from the trees, their voices sharp but beautiful, for the first time since meeting her. The humans saw the girl's shoulders relax. She inhaled deeply, as if taking in freedom itself. When they reached the heart of the valley, they found the remains of an old stone building. It was small, half collapsed, but it had a roof and walls. "It's not much," the human said, "but it's a start." The girl smiled faintly, her tail curling slightly in contentment. "I've never had a home that wasn't a cage," she admitted. "Then this is yours now," he said. She looked at him, golden eyes bright in the morning light. "Ours," she corrected. They sat together in the doorway of the ruined building, watching the day begin. The human felt the weight of exhaustion finally settle over him. But it was a good kind of tired, the kind that came from surviving. The girl leaned her head against his shoulder. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The wind whispered through the grass, carrying with it the faintest scent of smoke from the distant forest. Finally, the girl broke the silence. "If the gate ever tries to open again," she began, "we'll be ready," he finished for her. She smiled, closing her eyes. And in that quiet, with the morning sun warming their faces, they both knew this was not the end. It was the beginning of something neither of them could fully understand yet, but whatever came next, they would face it together, far away. Under the ruins of the temple, something shifted in the darkness. The faint glow of green light returned for a heartbeat, then faded again. The gate was closed. But the world had not heard the last of it.